Today, I'm going to show you how I make a recipe using Myfitnesspal. That way, every single time you make this recipe, you can just quickly go to your recipes and track it every single time. The example that I'm going to use today is my high protein protes recipe. You can find this recipe in my YouTube, but let's go. The best thing that you can do for any recipe that you have is to create a recipe in Myfitnesspal. That way, when you go to add food, you could go to my recipes, search for your recipe, and then add it in. So I'm gonna show you how to create a recipe. You're gonna go to the bottom, you're gonna hit more, you're gonna scroll down, hit my meals, recipes, and foods. Next, you're gonna go to the bottom, hit create a recipe, enter ingredients manually. We're gonna name this protes, and then this is going to make 8 servings. Next, we're going to add ingredients. Let's go ahead and search for quick oats, Quaker. I know that this is the correct listing for dry oats, not wet cooked oats. So for the dry oats, because that's what we're using, we're gonna select this one. And if you're ever confused on if this is the correct listing that you're adding into your recipe, just look at the back label of your the box for the food that you're using, and it should say half a cup of dry oats is 150 calories. Now what we're going to do, so this recipe makes for 3 cups of oats, so that's gonna be 6. Next, we're gonna add the unsweetened almond milk. So I know that 1 cup is 35 calories because I could just look at the back of the label. We're using 4 cups. Next, let's search for maple syrup. I know that this is correct. Let's hit the top. Let's change it to cups. It's at the bottom, right here. And then to change the servings, because there's only a 1/4 cup in this recipe, we're gonna tap number of servings, back out, hit 0.25, check mark it in. The next what's in here is chia seeds. Top is correct. Let's go ahead and change this to tablespoons. Change this to 4, add it in. And then we have our whey protein. We used the brand Thorn. This is the correct one per scoop. We added 5.5 scoops, add it in. And that's pretty much everything that went into this recipe. So let's go ahead and hit this. So as you can see, because remember that when we divide up this recipe into containers, we use a 3/4 cup measuring tool. And that's gonna go into 8 containers, making 8 servings. So each container is gonna give you 250 calories, 6 grams of fat, 31 grams of carbs, and 20 grams of protein. So then we're just going to save. And what we can do, if we want to track it, we can go to our diary, we can add food, we can go to my recipes, and we can go to protes. Now, if you are just having 1 container from the fridge, that's 1 serving. If you were to have 2 of those containers, that would be 2 servings. So let's assume that you are going for 1 serving. Let's go back. And let's say that you added 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. As long as you are measuring correctly, that's all that matters. Let's say we add 2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons, 1 serving, correct? And then that entire recipe comes out to 450 calories. If you wanted to scroll to see how many macros you had for the day, you just go to nutrition, hit macros, and so far from that meal, you've had 26 grams of protein, 22 grams of fats, 37 grams of carbs. So a few things when it comes to inputting a recipe in Myfitnesspal is number 1, you want to make sure that you measured every ingredient correctly and that every ingredient you tracked correlates to the correct listing that you search for. So the oats, for example, I used 3 cups of oats. I measured out 3 cups of oats, but more importantly, we need to make sure that we have the right brand and the type of oats that we're searching for. So I used dry oats, I used the brand Quaker, and so I search for those things. And then next, as far as the serving sizes go, let's say you make a big batch of like any recipe. What you wanna do when you're done cooking that recipe is you wanna divide it up into different containers if it's for prep. And then when you divide it up, the way you divide it up, or how I divide it up, is I use a measuring tool. So let's say I use 1 cup measuring tool to scoop out like a soup or the pros. And that 1 cup made 8 cups, meaning 8 servings or 8 containers. So then when I go into Myfitnesspal, I tell Myfitnesspal that this is 8 servings that this entire recipe makes. So let's say you made a big batch of soup and the amount of calories in that big pot of soup was literally 1,600 calories. And let's say that you used a 2-cup measuring cup to scoop out 2 cups of soup and it made 8 servings. Then that would mean that each serving or each container of soup is 200 calories. So let's just do the quick math. You have a big pot of soup, that's 1,600 calories. You use a 2-cup measuring tool and you scoop out 2 cups of soup and then you put it in 1 container. You do it again, put another container. You do that for 8 containers, meaning 1,600 divided by 8 gives you 200 calories per container, assuming that you used a measuring cup that scooped out 2 cups of soup per container. I did want to note that obviously it doesn't have to be 8 servings. It could be however many servings you want or however many containers you want. And you also don't have to use a 2-cup measuring tool. I'm just giving examples here. You can be as creative as you want and do it however you want, really. And I want you to think like that just because maybe you're making lasagna and it comes out to 16 pieces. Like if you divide it and cut it up, it comes out to 16. When you plug all the numbers into Myfitnesspal, like the ingredients used, the amount used per ingredient, and you put the serving size, you could put serving size for 16 pieces or 16 servings, meaning that 1 serving comes out to X amount of calories. So maybe when you plug it all in, maybe each serving would come out to about 350 calories. But that's how I do it. So hope that helps. See you next video.